down with LPP. Yeah, you know me. You down with LPP. Yeah, you know me. You down with LPP. Yeah, you know me.
And we are back at the OPP, the Organic Perspective Podcast. Like always, first and foremost, I would like to thank Yahuwah, the Most High, for this opportunity. Remember this, all honor, power, and glory belongs to him, for he is the way, the truth, and the life. So, mi gente, que lo que hay, my people, what it is. Here we are, another session. May Yahuwah bless everybody watching. And today's little teaching will be it's gonna be a little like coming from a different perspective of of explaining why saying Yahusha had to come down and he had to give his life up for his children. Okay. And then so we're gonna come from a different perspective and try to explain some things that the church doesn't really talk about, but we're gonna go ahead and talk about it today. So let's get it started. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so we're gonna start off reading a verse in Matthew chapter 15, verse 24. And I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay. So that's Yahusha talking. And he's speaking to his disciples, saying that he was sent to his lost sheep of Israel. And throughout the previous podcast, I've explained how the lost sheep was lost. Really quickly a recap. So during Moses' time, the Israelites they didn't follow the Father's ways like he wanted them to. So he gave them an option: either do what I ask you to do, or I'm gonna curse you guys, basically. And they did not do what he asked. So what happened to his children? Saying the 12 tribes of Israel. So what he said that he would curse them, and then he's gonna disperse them into the world. All corners of the world. He's gonna disperse them, and they're gonna be lost. They're gonna lose their identity. They're not even gonna remember who they are. But he says at the end times, towards the end times, that he's gonna come back, and he's gonna call his sheep back, his children back, and he says that his children, his sheep, they will know his voice when he calls back. Okay, so we're gonna go to John chapter 10, 16. Let me get there real quick. John chapter 10, verse 16. Okay. And this is Yahusha talking. And this is exactly what I was saying. And I have other sheep, not of this fold. So right now, he's talking to the Jews. He's talking to the Jews. And remember, the Jews, there's only 2 tribes within the Jews, because the word Jews come from Judah. And in the southern kingdom, it was Judah and Benjamin. And in the northern kingdom, there was the other 10 tribes. Okay? So let me keep reading. Oh, so at this moment, he was talking to Judah, because at that time, Judah and Benjamin were the only tribes that were actually, saying in the land. Because I'll explain to you in a little bit. But so like when Yahushua came down, he basically dealt mostly with Judah, the tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Benjamin. That's who was the Jews at that specific time. They were the only Jews. It was only the southern kingdom. Okay, so he was telling them that I have to come back, not just for you guys. I didn't have to just and I have other sheep that are not in this fold. So I had to come back for other sheep that are not here. Basically saying, the 2 tribes are here, but there's 10 tribes that I got to come back to. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So they will be one flock, one shepherd. You see? So he was talking to the tribe of Judah, the Jews, and he was letting them know, hey, you're not the only ones that I got to come back for. I got to come back for the other 10 tribes who have been dispersed throughout the land. So then let's go ahead and so then really quickly. So there's a big like confusion going on right now, and there's a lot of people teaching. I don't think that they're really trying to lead people astray, but if you don't have everything correctly, you should not be teaching. That's all I'm saying. You have to know your history. So 10:16, you have to know your history. So the history is this. You got to remember that when King Solomon was king, David's son, King Solomon was king, he did wrong in front of the eyes of the Father. He went and he was praising and worshiping other false deities, false gods. So Yahuwah, the Most High, got angry, and he kind of divided the kingdoms. See, when he was reigning, it was one kingdom, but right after him, they split up into two kingdoms. They split up into the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom was just Judah and Benjamin, and the northern kingdom was everybody else. I will go over the names in a minute. So the thing that I've been watching a lot online, and I just been hearing, that a lot of pastors and a lot of people online, and they're just, I don't think they're trying to mislead people, but they keep saying that there's 144,000 who have been sealed by the Most High. Okay, and if you want to know, so saying, and he's so it's 144,000. He sealed 12,000 of each tribe. Okay. So, obviously, the Jews are Judah and Benjamin. So that's 12,000 and 12,000, which is 24,000. That is the amount of Jews that he has sealed away. The other 120,000 are the lost tribes that got scattered around the world. Okay? So you got to understand this. Every Jew is an Israelite because they're part of the 12 tribes. But not every Israelite is a Jew. You see? So if you hear somebody saying, hey, the 144,000 who are sealed are Jews, understand that they don't know their history, but all you got to do is go back and read First Kings, Second Kings, and it explains how they split. So this is the thing. If you're out there teaching, you have to know these little histories, because then you're kind of keep people astray, kind of lead them astray. It's like, for example, when the teaching of the rapture. Okay, I've talked about it in here. I don't think we're going to be rapture. I think we're going to be right here for it. But I think it's a very dangerous teaching. Now if it happens and I'm wrong, okay, hey, I was wrong. Hey, I misunderstood. But I don't think I'm wrong. But the problem is with that teaching is that people are so like, oh, I'm not going to be here for that, because us Americans, we're so special that he's going to come down and he's going to rapture us away. And people are being taught that, and they will put their lives, they'll bet their lives on it, that they're not going to be here. They know they're not going to be here. They know in their heads they're not going to be here, and that's pretty dangerous, because the fact of the matter is, when the deceiver comes and says, hey, come do this, they're going to line up, because in their heads they're not supposed to be here when he says that. So they're going to be thinking, this is not the mark of the beast. Why? Because I'm not supposed to be here for it. But see, that's why that teaching is very dangerous. This is why you have to be prepared no matter what. Just be prepared no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So understand that teaching. So I teach against them. If you want to hear my teachings on the rapture and what I think is going to happen, there's previous podcasts. You can go back and check that out then. Okay. All right. So let's get back in topic. Okay. So as you saw, Yahusha came and said, I came for my flock. He started talking to his people, the Jews. He's like, yes, I came for you guys, but I also came to pick up the other ones who are dispersed around the world. Okay. And that year, the high priest, Caiaphas, he had a prophecy. And we're going to read that real quick right now. Okay. We're going to read that real quick right now. And that prophecy is on John chapter 11. Verse 51 and 52. Now Caiaphas, he was the high priest that year, and the Holy Spirit gave him a prophecy. Sometimes the Holy Spirit will use whoever. This is what I'm trying to say. You cannot put him in a box. The Ruach, which you guys know as the Holy Spirit, he can do whatever he wants. There's no rules. He does as he pleases. He can use whoever he wants. He doesn't have to use a perfect person. He can use a person that's way off. But like I say, the high priest, the priests at that time, those were the people that killed Yahusha. But he still used the high priest for this prophecy. And here we go. John 11, 51. 51 and 52. Here we go. He did not say this of his own accord. But being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahusha would die for the nation. See? What nation he's talking about? He's talking about the nation of Israel. Not just Judah. But the Jews took it like, oh, he's talking about us. But then we continue. And, okay, for the nation. And not for the nation only, but also to gather into one children of God who are scattered abroad. See? So he came, the high priest prophesied that the Yahusha came back to redeem his people, but not just the Jews that were there. Also, he's going to come and redeem the Jews. They're not Jews, they're Israelites. The Israelites who are scattered around the four corners of the earth. Remember, they got cursed, scattered, and then he's going to call them back. Okay? So that was the prophecy of the high priest. So as you can see, he's coming back for his people. Okay? And a lot of people are like, oh, what about John 3:16? They came back to save the world, the whole world, and anybody believes them, they're going to be saved. Yeah, when he said that is because since he dispersed his people around the whole world, that his people lost their identity. So when they lost their identity and they mixed with other nations, that gave the opportunity for other people, for everybody else to be saved, because his own people were mixed with everybody. So that's why he says that in John 3:16. Okay. So then now we're going to shoot over to the prophets. We're going to go over to, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to let you guys understand that there's a different perspective of why Yahusha came and died, on the cross for his children. Okay. And this is not spoken about. So we're about to learn today. So we're going to go to the prophet Jeremiah. Okay. Prophet Jeremiah. Nope. Okay, we're going to go to prophet Jeremiah. Excuse me real quick. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse chapter 3, 1. Jeremiah 3, 1. Okay, and here we go. So I'm going to explain to you why he had to come back and die for his people, because it was prophesied about in the time of the prophets. Okay, and here we go. If a man divorces his wife and she goes from him and becomes another man's wife, will he return to her? Would not that land be greatly polluted? You have played the whore with many lovers, and would you return to me? You see? So that's saying that the reason why they got dispersed is because they intermingled with other people. They intermingle with the rest of the world, and they're losing their identity. And so then they were the northern kingdom came, and they got taken over by the Syrians. Okay, so when they came over and got taken over by the Syrians, because the father gave them up to them because they weren't listening to him, they got scattered and dispersed. They were getting scattered and dispersed. Okay, 100 years after that, it happened to Judah, to the southern kingdom. So the first of northern kingdom got lost. 100 years later, the southern kingdom, same thing happened to them. The Babylonians, the Babylon came, and with King Nebuchadnezzar came, destroyed. They came and destroyed the temple, and they, saying they took the Jews into captivity. So the Syrians took the northern kingdom into captivity. The Babylonians took, and King Nebuchadnezzar took the southern kingdom into captivity. Okay, see, the problem was that, we'll keep reading for a little bit, but that's what happened. So 100 years later, Nebuchadnezzar came and took the Jews into captivity. Okay, so now we're gonna go and read Jeremiah. We're gonna stay here, and we're gonna go to verse 8. Okay. She saw that for all the adulteries of that faithful ones, Israel. See, so they were adultering, they were intermingling with other nations. So they were, the Father says that you're committing adultery with those other nations because you're worshiping the gods, So remember, you got to remember that the Most High, Yahusha, He's the bridegroom, and the church and the tribes are His bride. Okay, so they were intermingling, and they had to leave. Okay, so here we go. Okay, Israel, I had sent her away with a decree of divorce. See, so the father, Yahusha, the father, he sent away the northern kingdom and gave him a bill of divorce. Okay, there's a reason why we're speaking about this. Okay, a bill of divorce. Okay, yet her treacherous sister Judah did not fear, but she too went and played the whore. Because she took her whoredom lightly, she polluted the land, committed adultery with stone and tree. Yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah did not return to me with her whole heart, but in pretense, declares the Lord. So see, that's the one thing. The difference between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom is when the northern kingdom, they got they came in and they turned them into slaves and took them to Assyria. They never came back. The southern kingdom, when they did their time, they were I think like 70 years, they were 70, 80 years, they were slaves. They did their time, and then they came back. And then they came back, and then they came back and started worshiping the Father, and came back to the Father. Okay, came back to the Father. So that was the difference between the northern kingdom and southern kingdom. Okay. So they came back. All right. So now, back in the day, we'll go over in a little bit ago. Back in the day, way back in the day, the law was, if you were an Israelite, okay, which Jews are Israelites. If you were an Israelite and you married, saying a female, the only way the female can get out of that marriage would be two different ways. It'd be if the husband came and gave her a bill of divorce, or if he just sent her away. That was the only way that you can that you can separate. But if you didn't get a bill of divorce, the next person that she tried to like whatever try to marry, he would ask her, "Hey, let me see your bill of divorce." And if she didn't have one, most likely they weren't gonna marry her. Because it was considered adulterous to do that because they were still married. Okay. So then, so they were still married. And then there's another way to escape that promise of marriage, to those part. There's another, and I'll go over that in a minute. But before that, we're going to go to Romans 7. Romans 7. Romans 7. And we're going to read chapter 24. Romans. Hold on 1 second. Romans 7. My bad. 7. And we're going to read verse 1 through 4. Okay. Or do you not know, brothers, for I am speaking to those who know the law, that the law is binding on a person only as long as he lives. For a married woman is bound by law to her husband. First of all, hold on. Let me go back here. You gotta understand how it starts. Okay, it starts like this. Or do you not know, brothers? I am speaking to those who know the law. So we're gonna stop right there. So he's speaking. So Paul was a Jew. He was from the tribe of Benjamin, and he was speaking to other Jews. So see, this is the problem with this. So he's speaking to Jews, and he's speaking to people that know the law. So if you don't know the law, which the law is the law is in Deuteronomy 24, if you don't know that law, and then you read these verses, you're gonna put yourself in like your denomination. If you're a Pentecostal, if you're whatever, Baptist, whatever it be, you're going to stick that into this thought. But he wasn't speaking to none of us. He was speaking about the law that he made, saying way back in the day in Deuteronomy with Moses. So do not read chapter 7. So you can do not read past this point. It's not even verse 1. Unless you go back and find out what the law said. Okay? You gotta find out what the law said. Okay. So I'm gonna continue reading, and then we're gonna go back and we're gonna read the law a little bit, okay? Okay. So here we go. Okay, so then here's to know that binding, okay. That know the law. That the law is binding one person only as long as he lives. For a married woman is bound by law to her husband while he lives, but if her husband dies, she is released from that law of marriage. What law are we talking about? We're talking about the law in Deuteronomy chapter 24. Okay. Accordingly, she will be called an adulteress if she leaves with another man while her husband is alive. But if her husband dies, she is free from the law, and if she marries another man, she is not adulteress. Likewise, my brothers, you also have died to the law through the body of Christ, so that you may belong to another, to him who has been raised from the dead, in order that we may bear fruit for God. Fruit for God. Okay. So here we go. He's talking to the Jews, and they know exactly what they're saying because they've all had these laws memorized. They grew up with these teachings. But if you don't understand that, you're gonna go in and start reading that. You're gonna be like, oh, he's talking about us now. No, he was not talking about us. If you don't understand it, go back and read the law. So let's go back and let's read the Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 24. Deuteronomy chapter 24. Verse 1 through 4. 24. Here we go. Here's the law. Okay. This is what they knew. But if you don't know the law, if you don't know this, you're gonna be all confused and you're gonna be lost because you're taking things out of context. And I'm trying to put it into context for you guys. Okay. When a man takes a wife and marries her, if then she finds no favor in his eyes because he has found some indecency in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of the house, she departs out of the house. And if he hands her a bill of divorce, then she's free from her obligation of that marriage because he gave her a bill of divorce. Okay. And if she goes and becomes another man's wife, and the latter and the latter man hates her and writes her a certificate of divorce and puts her in her hand and sends her out the house, or if the latter man dies who took her to be his wife, then the former husband who sent her away may not take her again to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that is an abomination before the Lord. And you shall not bring sin upon the land that the Lord your God is giving you for inheritance. So there you go. There's the second way to get out of your marriage vows and stuff is, one is if he gives you a bill of divorce. The second way is if he passes away. The one that gave that the one that didn't give you the bill of divorce and sent you out, you're bound to that man, and whoever other man you get with, you're an adulteress. It says whore here, but if he dies, then that kind of it kind of sets you free from the obligations of that law. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and so then I told you about Paul, and Paul, he was talking to his people. So, and then at the time, the people that Paul was talking to, which were the Jews, they were they thought they were better than the other Israelites because the other Israelites got divorced and never came back. So they knew that they couldn't come back. They could never come back because they got a bill of divorce. They knew that. So they thought they were better than the other Israelites. The Jews thought they were better than other Israelites because they didn't get a bill of divorce because they came back. So they thought they were better. But as you can see, as you can see, that wasn't the case. Okay, so now we're gonna read Jeremiah 3:8-12. Go back to Jeremiah and read chapter Jeremiah 8-12. 3:8-12. Okay, here we go. She saw for that all the adulterers of that faithful ones Israel I had sent away with a decree of divorce. Yet treacherous sister. So I just read this a minute ago. So basically he sent her away. And the Jews were not accepting them. They would not accept them as equal tribes as they were. So the only way they would accept them is if those people from the other tribes, they would convert into the tribe of Judah or the tribe of Benjamin. But obviously, those other tribes, they weren't going to convert, to to a different tribe. They had their own tribes, you know. But again, they were lost. They were lost. They were lost. So here we go. So we're gonna go ahead and do a quick summary of what's been going on. Okay, a quick summary of the teaching so far. Okay. Okay. So then the quick summary here. Okay. So who was the bridegroom of Israel? Who was it? It was Yahuwah. He was the bridegroom. Why did Yahuwah divorce divorce the tribes? Because they were committing adultery with other nations and worshiping other deities. Okay. So now, in the law, when Deuteronomy 24, could the man that sent his woman away and she went and got with somebody else, could she come back? No, she couldn't come back because it was an abomination. So again, what were they doing for the bride, for Yahuwah to divorce them? Well, they were committing adultery. And again, so in Romans 7, he talks about that the only way that the law says you're out of you can get out of your marriage vows and stuff is if the man dies. Okay, so we're gonna bring it all together here. Okay, we're gonna bring it all together here. Okay, so now this is pure prophecy. Okay, this is what happened. So he divorced them. You gotta understand now. So Yahusha came. He came because it was prophesied that in Jeremiah that he was gonna call all his 12 tribes back to him, but they could not come back. The Jews knew they couldn't come back because they got the bill of divorce. So Yahushua had to come and he had to give himself up on the cross to die for his bride. So once he died, like the law says, then you're good. You're good from the obligation. Your obligation of that marriage. So now those 10 tribes can come back because why? Yahushua came and died on the cross for them. And since they were dispersed out into the whole world, that gave an opportunity for the world, saying to get for him to die for them too. That's how awesome this story is. This is the greatest love story that there is. He came and died for his bride. Now, why did he come back to life? You know what I'm saying? Why was he resurrected? Why did he resurrect? Well, he resurrected because he was the only one worthy enough to come back and be the bridegroom for that bride. And there's on Revelation chapter 19. Let's go there right now real fast. Revelations chapter 19. Chapter 19, verse 6 through 9. We're going to read this. Now, this is the reason why he had to, he came back and died for him. He died for his bride. So then in Revelations 19, so this is right before the 1,000 years range, there's going to be a marriage. There's going to be the marriage supper of the Lamb. You see, it's not the marriage supper of the 1,000 years. It's not the marriage supper of the end times. No, it's the marriage supper. You see. So here we go. Then I heard what seemed to be the voice of a great multitude, like the roar of many waters, and like the sounds of mighty peals of thunder, crying out, "Hallelujah! For the Lord our God, the Almighty reigns. Let us rejoice and exalt and give him the glory. For the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. It was granted her through the cloth herself, through the clothes herself, with fine linen, bright and pure. For the fine line is the righteous deeds of the saints. And the angel said to me, write this, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, there are these are the true words of God. See? So the reason why he came, the main reason why, so he had a, you gotta understand that he came to fulfill prophecy. Remember, he fulfilled all type of prophecies, so he had to come and die for those 10 tribes to be able to come back to him. And when he did that for the 10 tribes, he gave the opportunity for the rest of the world. If you believe in him, you could be saved. You see, it was all prophecy. This is just looking at it from a different perspective. He came and died for his people. He had to. Why? Because if he didn't, they could not come back, and reign with them when he takes over for those 1,000 years. So yeah, it's like I said. Oh, and then what I wanted to tell you guys, the other 12 tribes, the 10 tribes that their names, just so you guys can check them out. Okay. So we know Judah and Benjamin, they're from the southern kingdom, which are the Jews, and the northern kingdoms are Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph. Those are the other 10 tribes. So there's going to be 12,000 of each one of those tribes who are going to be sealed at the end time to do the Father's work when he's ready for it to be done. So if you hear someone saying, "Hey, 144, he came and sealed 144,000 Jews," you should think about getting up and walking away, because they should not be teaching you, because there's only going to be 24,000 Jews. The other 120,000 are going to be the Israelites from the other tribes. So yeah, it was a pretty heavy teaching today. It's like there's some truth here, because like I said, you could give a simple test to your pastor or to the leaders that you're listening to, and just ask them this: hey, who are the 144,000 who are sealed? Who are those people? And if they tell you, "Oh, they're all Jews," they're not all Jews. They're all Israelites, but not all Jews. Only 24,000 of them are Jews. And see, the problem is the enemy doesn't want this to come out. He doesn't want everybody to understand that, they're not, all 144,000 aren't going to be Jews. He doesn't want people knowing that. Why? Because if people find out, or people put together that in 1948 the state of Israel came back to Israel and the Jews got their land, if that is if that's the real, if that was the second Exodus, that would be false. It would be false, because the only ones, the other 120,000, they have not come back. Only the Jews came back. The other 120,000 are scattered. So the enemy doesn't want that truth to come out. So he uses confusion and tries to keep people too busy to hear the truth. So like I said, you must study self-approve. Go back and read everything I have told you guys. Do not listen to me. You know what? Don't listen to your leaders, to your pastors, to your prophets. You know what? Always, whatever anybody says, always go back and study yourselves approve and see if what the word says, it coincides with what they're saying. Always make sure. Don't be led astray. Like I said, like I tell you guys all the time, hey, salvation is individual. If you guys don't do your own work, it's on you. With that being said, from the Kingdom perspective, stay safe, stay smooth. May Yahuwah bless you. Peace. I'm out.